You're listening to Ideal Practice episode number 134. Today, guys, we are going to be talking with my guest, Kimberly Spencer, about how to reprogram your mindset for success. Oh my gosh, this was a juicy one, and you are going to love it. So, stay tuned. Hi, I'm Wendy Pitts-Reeves, and with over 2 decades of experience in the private practice world, I've built my 6-figure business while learning a lot of lessons the hard way. This is the first podcast that shows you how to apply the principles of energy, alignment, and strategy to build a practice that is profit-centered, but people-forward. This is the Ideal Practice Podcast. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Ideal Practice Podcast. This is your host, Wendy Pitts-Reeves, and I am so happy to be hanging out with you today. Guys, this is a good one. I have such a treat for you today. I was astonished at how many little nuggets of wisdom there were all the way through my conversation today with Kimberly Spencer. I think this is the kind of episode that the first time you listen to it, you're going to get about half of what's here. And I think if you go back and listen to it more than once, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, I missed that part completely. Because there are so many moments here where we talked about ways that we get in our own way in our practice that are really subtle and what to do about it. And it all comes down to the way we think, guys. It all does. So Kimberly Spencer is an award-winning high-performance coach and trainer. She's an Amazon best-selling author. She's an international motivational speaker. And she's the founder of crownyourself.com. Crownyourself.com. I love that. She helps high achievers build their empire with spark, with holistic fulfillment in their bodies, their businesses, and in their relationships. She kind of works on the whole package. And she had the best energy. She was really delightful to talk to. But more than anything, what I found today was that Kimberly had a completely different way of thinking about our relationship with money in ways that I hadn't thought about before. She has a core principle, which is, I'm going to tell you this now, you will hear us say this again in the interview. She says, that which is conscious manifests happily. That which is unconscious manifests unhappily. There's a lot to that simple little bit of wisdom right there, and you can do a lot with it. I think you're going to find in this interview that there are some really obvious red flags in how your practice is going that you can really learn from and that are going to really help you grow as a practice owner, as a business owner, as a clinician, as a healer, and as a human being. There's lots of good stuff here. So before I give it all away, let's get into the interview. All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Ideal Practice Podcast. You guys have already heard a little bit about today's guest. Guys, this is going to be a deep conversation and a thought-provoking conversation. I guarantee it, because when you learn more about what Kimberly has to say and what she's going to bring to you, I think you're going to be really like, oh my gosh, I never saw it that way. That's a really good point. Okay. So let me go ahead and get her on here. You've already heard a little bit about her in the intro. Kimberly, say hi.
Hello, Wendy. Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to speak with your audience, especially because therapists and healers and practitioners in that space are so necessary right now. And seeing the dismal undercharging and business, like some certain business practices that if we just tighten up those boundaries, change happens so radically. And I've seen it with my own clients. I've seen it just in the industry itself. Like you become more empowering to the people that you serve when you are standing in your queen's presence.
Oh my gosh, that is so true right off the bat. Yes. I say that all the time, that how you handle, I say how that money is a therapeutic issue.
Yes.
How and right, which we do, which no one teaches us that, but that is true. And how you handle, I love that you said tightening up your boundaries. Just a few things can make such a change. But when you are standing in your own power, you are actually empowering your clients, which is not something anyone ever thinks of. I tell you
Yeah.
what, just to get us give a little bit of an overview, tell people a little bit about who you help and how you help them. Let's start with that.
So I have been serving high achieving, high performing leaders for 9 years as a coach with my coaching company, Crown Yourself. We really work a lot on money mindset, visibility, and strategy, the overarching strategy of the business to be able to
Mm.
have a business that supports you because nobody, especially like I'm also a mom of two and one on the way.
Oh
So
wow!
thank
Congratulations! Oh
you.
my
Thank you.
gosh, that's
Yeah.
exciting!
Entered the third trimester with number
Wow.
three, and
Ah.
we finally got our girl, and I'm done.
Oh, honey, that's great. Congratulations and Merry Christmas. Wow. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as a mom, like I started scaling and growing my coaching business when I found out that I was pregnant because prior to that, I was stuck in this dabbler's phase. And so this is very
Mm.
personal for me because I completely understand the life-changing work that can happen when you are able to elevate someone because you're also simultaneously elevating yourself and filling your own cup. And prior to me finding out I was pregnant with my first son, I'd been an entrepreneur since I was 19 years old. My first business was a brick and mortar Pilates studio. I started that to support myself in entertainment, fulfilled a childhood dream of becoming a screenwriter. I wrote an indie motocross movie with the director
Really?
Nick Parati. Yes, I did.
Oh my gosh, what a hoot. Talk about a
Yeah.
background. I didn't know that. That's
Yeah,
great.
starring Danny Trejo of all people. He's
Oh
really nice.
wow.
He's a really nice guy. Fulfilled that dream at 24, was at the premiere and was like, there's got to be more to this. And then I was
Mm.
offered because of my Pilates background, because I'd had Pilates as a bridge job, but it was also my own business.
Yeah.
Um, I had the opportunity to come on as a consultant for an e-commerce company. Grew that company for 2 years, ended up seeing the product, said, I don't want to just be a consultant. I want to be a president. I want to be a
Uh,
partner. And then grew that company and made all the mistakes, all the mistakes
what I love
imaginable.
about that, you were ambitious from the beginning. You were like, I want something bigger. I am aiming for something bigger from the beginning. And you were not
Oh, yeah.
apologetic about that. I love that. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
That's how I got the
Yeah.
film produced. I
Yeah.
share about that in my book, Make Every Podcast Want You.
Mm.
The story of how I got that opportunity, I just seized it. I
Mm.
always was very audacious with my career until I went through a 3 month buyout process with my business partner. And I had never been presented by the world of corporate legal men
Oh, yeah.
um
Yeah.
with negotiations, and this was where I learned to stand in my power and then subsequently felt like I was a failure for
Oh,
having quote
wow.
unquote lost my business. I didn't even see a successful exit as a success because I had put so much time, energy, and effort undervalued in that company and
Mm.
undercompensated in that company during my duration while I was president.
Mm.
And that experience threw me for a loop. I ended up signing the buyout agreement 3 weeks before I got married, jetted off from so on the, like, just picture this, like everyone else is doing cake tastings and wedding dress fittings for their weddings. I was negotiating with lawyers
Good
and
Lord.
crying and shaking. And they don't send the nicest emails
Yeah.
when you are not the one who's paying them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and I know it was just to lower my price now. And now in hindsight, I've helped walk several clients through buyouts with their business partners who they started
Mm.
as friends, and then
Yep.
the contracts and the boundaries weren't those tightened boundaries.
Yeah.
And so things
That's a whole nother
happen, you slip.
conversation right there.
A
Like how to
whole
hold
other.
your own with a business partner, which I've seen that as well. It's less
Hmm.
common in my world because people tend to be a solo practice provider
Yeah.
or owner, even if it's a group practice. But I went through several business partners in the early years, all of whom I love, but I learned a lot from that. Yeah. Wow. So you
Yeah.
had to, like right off the bat, you were thrown into the deep end and you had to learn how to stand up for yourself or you were going to drown, is kind of how I hear
Yeah.
that. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
a hundred
wow.
percent. And
Wow.
that experience, I then went off on my honeymoon, was brainstorming for 6 weeks in off the coast of Italy with my husband, who's an
Ah,
amazing, who's also been an entrepreneur for years. And so I was thinking, like, how do I combine all these interests? And I saw this really beautiful picture of holistic success, of having your body be thriving, having your relationships be thriving, having a business be thriving, and having them all mutually and holistically support each other.
mm.
And that was when I leaped off the couch and I said, "Crown yourself." And my husband goes, "What's that?" I said, "That's the name of my company." And he goes, "What do you
Ah.
do?" I said, "I have no idea." So it took a year and a half to figure out what coaching was and how to do it and what to do it. But then I
I don't
found
know
out
what it is, but it's going to be really good. I
it's going to be so good.
could totally relate
Oh,
to that.
and
That
I
right
mean,
there,
I
y'all.
had
That
the,
that is what an entrepreneur is. I have a
yes,
great idea. I don't know what it is, but it's going to be awesome, and oh, it's going to help so many people. That is an entrepreneur.
it's going to be amazing. It's going to make a massive impact.
I love it, and $1 million. That's great.
Yep. Yep. 100%. And for a year and a half, I was that dabbler and I was undercharging. And I started off charging, you're going to love this, Wendy, $25 an hour
Ah,
for coaching for a month.
oh my gosh!
Yeah. My prices are very different now. It's a very different
Wow,
level of investment.
that makes
But
perfect sense to me though, because you
that
have
was
been you
where
would. It was new to charge for yourself was different than the corporate
yeah,
angle, right? It's a
yeah.
completely different, like it's a whole different way of showing up. I totally get that.
Yeah, and it
Yay.
was different because I was used to charging for Pilates and I had a structure and a system for that. And when
Yep.
you're charging for something that's very ethereal and
Yep.
energetic and
Right. It feels
mental,
abstract.
it's
How can I
it's
even charge for
totally
this?
abstract.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I wasn't sure the price point to put on it. I didn't have systems that I'd trained in, so I had to figure it out. Eventually, when I found out I was pregnant with my son, I got certified in NLP, timeline therapy,
Mm,
and hypnosis. So I had a process that I could follow and that I could
yeah.
serve people with. And that was what started to skyrocket my prices and also
Mm,
my success. After getting my first $2,000 client, I was like, oh, I'm off to the races. I
there
know
you
how to do
go.
this.
Yeah. This is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, that's funny. One of my original business partners also was certified in NLP and timeline therapy. And it was fascinating watching her begin to implement that into her work. It made a huge difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
It's a game changer when you
Yeah.
can, like a lot of the clients I've worked with, sometimes they have their 5-year-old running their
Mm-hmm.
business
Mm-hmm.
because of some form of shock trauma or childhood trauma or experience that they've had. And it's
Yeah.
the thing with being an entrepreneur is I think entrepreneurship and being a parent are personal development on steroids.
Amen.
And you
Yeah.
will look at yourself in every way, every day, and see your business as a reflection of you. And
Mm.
simultaneously, the more you de identify with the results that your business is producing, the more success you'll actually have.
Oh, that's important. Say that again.
The
That's
more you
important.
de identify with the results that your business is producing or
Mm.
experiencing, the more success you will have because
Wow.
the
Okay.
business then becomes data driven instead of emotional and ego driven.
I love that. There's a coach that I follow who says when you talk about your business as your baby, what a mistake that is because babies need to grow up and leave home.
Yeah.
And that you cannot be that personally connected. Like you have to be connected from a heart center. Yes, of course. But your business is not who you are. Your business is what you do.
Hmm.
Right. That's really interesting. And the success of your business, however you're growing, is not a reflection on you. It is just I think of it's a skill to learn like anything else.
Hmm.
Yeah. Which
And I
you were
think of it
doing.
like a yes and because it's
Yeah.
not you, but it is you because you are the
I get
leader
that.
of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not you, but it is you in looking at I live by a very simple principle of that which is conscious manifests happily, that which is unconscious manifests unhappily.
Mm,
So that one simple principle, when I look at things like revenue. When I look at things like, and it's not just revenue, because a lot of people and a lot of coaches focus on revenue optimization, and everyone on Instagram shares their revenue numbers. But I can guarantee you, having just launched, grown, and struggled with our sister business, which is our Communication Queens podcasting agency, revenue is not king. Revenue is queen, but
Mm,
it's not reigning supreme.
okay.
Cash flow and profit, that is sanity. That is
Mm,
king in your business. And
mm-hmm.
if you don't know those numbers and if you're not optimizing those numbers, you may be making even multiple six figures a year. But if
Right.
you're spending a lot up
Multiple
to
six
multiple
figures a
six
year.
figures a year,
Right.
you're not going to
Right.
feel very good about your business because it's not going
Right.
to be actually supporting you.
Right.
And so I'm
Huh.
so grateful for that experience of scaling and growing and now essentially pivoting our agency model that we had for 2 years and pivoting it into more of a consultative coaching model to support our leaders in getting more visibility on podcasts like yours.
Mm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
that model, it just was a game changer. That pivot was a game changer when I recognized the OpEx just wasn't sustainable. And a
Huh.
lot of times, especially with solo practitioners, when you're thinking of OpEx, like your operational expenses, it's also coming down to the energy that you're expending. Because eventually, and I've worked with a lot of healers, massage therapists, and therapists, and good-hearted practitioners, but eventually your time and your hands can only do so much.
Right.
And you're
Right.
you're
Right.
you're a filter for that energy and for your client's energy. And there's a cap on that.
Yeah. Energy is everything. So going back to what you said a minute ago about de-identifying with your
Yeah.
business, right? I think maybe a way to think about that or to clarify that a little bit is that the success of your business is not a reflection on your self-worth, on your value, the money that you're making or not making. I want to dig into this piece about the revenue
Yes.
is not a reflection on your value as a human being or on your skills. However, what's happening with your revenue, cash flow, and profit is a reflection of your energy. I'm thinking that's where we want to
Mhm.
go, right?
That's
Yeah.
100%
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah. Hmm.
being able to, I have this term that I coined called money bulimia. And it's something that I've seen. I struggled with bulimia when I was from the age of 11 to the age of 22,
Mm,
and like actual bulimia. And
yeah.
if you think about what a bulimic is, bulimia as the disease, get a bunch of food in, and then
Yeah.
eventually, as the disease progresses, you
Yeah.
actually can put away a lot of calories. Like
Yeah.
I remember what I used to eat. I'm like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then subsequently, there is the purge.
Right.
Now, I can't tell you, Wendy, how many business owners I've worked with who experience the joy and the elation that comes from, oh, I hit a 20K month, I had a 50K month, and I just signed a $30,000 contract, or I just signed my first $5,000 package. They're
100%.
so excited for that
Yep.
moment and they consume it all. And then
Yeah.
it purges back out in the form of bills or additional expenses, or my favorite, because this one is the one that's acceptable in the world of business, is investing in your business. So that means
Mm,
investments in a high ticket coach, perhaps, or a program, or a mastermind, or a certain services, certain marketing services.
yeah.
Now, I am all for investing in your business 100%.
Yeah.
And I looking at when you get those influxes of revenue and like
Yeah.
those the excitement, also the egoic appreciation and the almost the self-validation of those experiences.
Mhm.
When you get that, there's a struggle with the energy of having.
That is so true. That is, this is huge. I love that you are highlighting this. And the money bulimia is that's a powerful metaphor. I haven't heard it put that way before, but this concept, I think of it as the status quo, the self-sabotage that always returns you back to whatever you can tolerate. I have also seen your first $8,000 client, your first $20,000 month. And lo and behold, a month later, 2 months later, you're right back to where you've always
Mm-hmm.
been. I totally get that. Um, Guys, I hope that you all who are hearing this, I hope you can like tune into this and listen and think, has this happened to you? Have you had a crazy month that sort of surprised you because the numbers were higher than you even thought you could make? And then a month or two later, boom, you're right back where you were. There is a pattern to that often. This is great. I love where you're going with this, Kim. This is great.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had that in 2018. I had my first 13K month.
Mm.
And that was so exciting. I finally hit that pinnacle in coaching that's like, oh, you have a five-figure month. I was like,
Woohoo.
$13,000. That's what I used to make in a quarter.
Yep.
So teaching Pilates.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was so exciting. And part of it though was after
I can
signing
relate.
a big contract, I started to say
Mm.
yes to clients that actually weren't aligned. I started to
Mm.
get in that space of actual to be honest, it was greed, but it was deeper than that. It was the energy of this hunger and need to control.
Hmm.
And the next month after that was our lowest month that we'd had in 2 years.
Wow, that's a lesson. Yeah. Yeah.
And that experience, and it was because of that reflection of self-worth. It was because of the principle of of being able to have and hold. And if you think about food for a second, like
Mm.
food nourishes your body. It's
Hmm.
supposed to come into your body, fuel your cells, give you all the nutrients. The same is true for money.
Yeah.
And when we experience that intake, it's being able to sit with like, how well can I allow myself to be just nourished?
Yeah.
Can I,
Yeah.
how can I just
Mm.
allow myself to feel this level of support from money?
Mm.
Because when you're in that space of especially if you're used to being in fight flight, and especially if you're used to being in that space of like, oh, I have to sell this month, I have to close these clients because I need
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z. That language alone keeps you in a space of scarcity. It
Hmm.
keeps you in a space
Hmm.
of that hunger of looking for that next client. And so sometimes we don't allow that actual nourishment of money.
That's a beautiful way of putting that. I wrote down how well can I allow myself to be nourished by money? Because nourish is such a beautiful, sweet, warm word. And we do not think that. So if you're what you just said is you're using the language of have to, need to, gotta. Like it
Hmm.
was a coach I worked with a long time ago who said I don't chase money because when you chase money, money runs away.
It does.
Right? And that idea of, but that's completely different. That I have to, need to, lack minded thinking is
Hmm.
completely different from allowing money to nourish you. What a thought! What a concept. Like, why would you feel guilty about that? And also, can you allow that? Because if you can't, you'll block it, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. 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 That's
Yeah.
beautiful. What a cool way to think about that. Hmm.
Yeah. And that's where sustaining it, that's where like, for example, as far as systems go,
Yeah.
I follow and I get all my clients on the profit first system
Yeah.
of that Mike Malkowitz's brilliant book, Profit First, highly recommend. One of my very dear friends, Amanda Kaufman, who is a brilliant business coach as well, she even gave me this hint, and I was like, oh dang. She said, have your profit account, because so in Profit First, the basic concept, it's also kind of rooted in food. It's like just
Mm.
have smaller plates, because when you
Yeah.
have that big one checking account that has a whole bunch of money suddenly in it, and you're like, oh, dang, I have so much to spend and
Hmm.
expend and not really nourish, then you're
Yeah.
seeing that number and then you think, and suddenly you're seeing bills, investments, things that you may want to be able to do. You may get to take that vacation. Like
Yeah.
there's so many things that you can do with that. and it can go away very quickly.
It's kind of amazing.
It's kind of amazing how fast it can be spent. So when
Amen.
you condense and make the plate smaller, meaning you have separate bank accounts that you don't uh, that make it harder for you to access that money, then it turns the system, and this is not financial advice. I highly recommend just going and getting the book.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it makes the system so that you don't see this big pile of cash that you can spend now, because
Yeah.
then there's the bulimia. Now there's all
Yeah.
this stuff that you now have to purge out of you to expend that energy. And from my history with actual bulimia, there was not just the actual purging of like vomiting. There was also purging at the gym, working out for 3 hours
Yeah.
a day. There was
Yeah.
the expenditure. What it is it's an expenditure of extra energy that your body is actually struggling to contain.
Mm.
But there's a modicum of being able to control your own downfall in that
Mm.
mindset and in that mentality with spending. And
Wow.
being able to control the self-sabotage, because you know what it's like to live in lack, and so you're used to that pattern, and so you can
Like I know
further
what
that
to do with
pattern.
this. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know
you
what to
know
do with
what to do
this.
with it. You can control that pattern, so we
Control
think.
your own downfall. Lord. It's going to be bad, but at least it'll be bad my way.
Yeah.
I'm never
Oh,
going
it's
to
for the
make it, but that's
recovering
okay.
control freaks love it.
Gee whiz. That's great. Control your downfall. Y'all, let's stop doing that, shall we? For
Seriously.
real. Let's stop that.
Seriously, let's have the upward high. So what my friend Amanda Kaufman recommended, she said, don't even just have your profit account because you set up different accounts. She said, have your profit account be a high yield savings account. And I was like, oh, that's genius. Because then
Yeah.
you have the nourishment. Then you get to see your money growing just because there's an account that babysits it. Like,
Yeah.
and you get to see it growing. And
Yeah.
that was the fastest way that I got out of $42,000 in debt by the time that I actually started my coaching company, because yeah, that buyout check got spent quickly. Let's just put it that
Yeah.
way.
Because, well, because I think, and I think you're going to help us with this. I think
Yeah.
ultimately it comes back to what we think we are worth. I
Yeah.
can't have more money because I'm not allowed to have more money. I don't deserve more money. I'm not. Can you just tell them real quick the basic principle of profit first? I know I also follow that. I love that
Yeah.
stuff. But can you just sort of walk them through like just a quickie kindergarten level of what it's about?
Super, yeah, super kindergarten level is it's basically you have separate accounts for separate things. So you have an account for taxes, you have an account for profit, you have an account for your operational expenses, and you have an account for your owner's compensation. Yes,
Mm,
queens and kings, you must
salary.
be compensating yourself for your
Yes.
business.
Yeah.
And then you have an account that always that gets the money income and deposited into it, and that income account you then drain down to zero by distribution by percentages. So, what I love about this model is that it's not like you have to put $500 into savings every month, because sometimes I've had months where that's not feasible.
Yeah.
But if you're operating by percentages, then that is where you can say, okay, well, I made $5,000 this month. And so you can take 10% of the $5,000 and put that away. But then if you have, let's say, a $10,000 month, you get to put,
A
again,
thousand.
10%. So you get to
Yeah.
put that $1,000 into the profit account.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you have a $3,000 month and you can't put 500 or $1,000 away, because that would literally, you would have nothing to spend to nourish you, to allow your business to support you, to allow you to pay for the operational expenses, whether it's a virtual assistant or some admin support or a social media manager or someone that you have supporting on your team.
Yeah.
Then you don't decrease the percentage, but you decrease the amount that's actually
Right.
uh,
Right.
being
Right.
put into that account based
Yeah.
on the percentages. And he gives a great map inside of the book for where your business is at financially for annual revenue, for the amount of percentages that you should be compensating yourself
Mm.
for, how much your
Mm-hmm.
business should be making for you, so that you as
Yeah.
the leader and as the owner are supported. Because the biggest mistake that I've seen new business owners make, especially when they are first out of coaching school, or they've
Yep.
got their degree and they're so excited to start that
Yep.
business and to start serving people, is they let the business expense be everything for the business and nothing is actually supporting and again, nourishing themselves. Because I like to think of business as a relationship. And this is one of the articles that I was featured in Forbes for, was I said, are you in an it's complicated relationship with your business?
Mm,
And if you think about the it's complicated relationship Facebook status, that's
yeah.
the on off then. That's the will they won't they, the Ross and Rachel. And the that status of being in that relationship with your business, if you were to personify your business, is is that relationship supporting you? And just picture it as like your spouse, even. If you were in a relationship with your spouse and you had no idea where the money was coming from and you were completely blind, and I'm going to be honest, there's a lot of women in this country who are
Yep.
completely blind to that. I live
That is true. Yep.
in the
Yep.
Midwest.
Yep. I
So,
see it too. I totally get it. Yep.
yeah.
That's true.
So, I mean, this is and when we talk about money, I also want to just bring up the fact that women have
Yeah.
only been able to make money actually for about the past 200 years. So
Mm,
there is generational programming that is
mm.
at play. So it is that not knowing this stuff is not your fault.
That's powerful. Thank you for that. Guys, this is not something we think about very much. The historical context around our challenges with how we approach money. I love that, Kimberly, that you're saying that. In the therapeutic world, in the mental health world, one of the things that I was taught is to look at how things get passed down in families
Hmm.
in terms of like not just your hair color or your eye color, how tall you are, but also you will see patterns in families where the firstborn always goes to the military, or there's a miscarriage in the third pregnancy in
Hmm.
3 generations in a row. Like weird stuff happens.
Yeah.
Um, the impact of our cultural history is so ingrained in who we are. We do not think about that. That is a great point. I love that. You're right. And I was expecting when you started that, I thought you were going to say the last 50 years because it's really only since the 70s that women
Yeah.
have even been able to get credit in their own name, right?
Yep.
So like we're sort of brand new to this world. That's right. That's so good. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
we're
not
brand
your
new to the
fault.
business world. It's not your fault, but
Not your
now that
fault.
you have the knowledge and now that you're in the game,
Yep.
it is your responsibility to grow out of that and to break that
Yes.
cycle. Now, I'm very
Yeah.
blessed because I grew up with two entrepreneur parents. And my mom, we've had so many conversations now that my father has passed, like, because she was like, I never, she has this ability. She never saw the cultural stigma in any way or the glass ceilings.
Yeah.
She just was like, when she first married my dad, she said, "Do you mind if I work?" And he was like, "No, go for it," because he grew up with a single mom and who had to work, and so
Yeah.
he's like, "No, have at it." But that she never what saw a no, and I'm really grateful that I grew up in that environment because I grew up seeing entrepreneurship as a vehicle for success. I grew up seeing
Mm.
entrepreneurship, the hard parts of 10 years of being put like, well, I wasn't being pushed in a stroller for 10 years, but my mom was pushing me in the stroller,
Yeah.
passing out
Yeah.
flyers for their business. My dad was an arborist and he also was a highly
Hmm.
functioning addict. So
Okay.
surprisingly, he was able to build a very successful arborist company to the $1 million annual level while being a functioning addict. And I saw
Yeah.
that and I was like, oh, well, if he could do that, what could I do? If he could do that in 30 years,
Right.
what could I do in 10? But
Right.
I had that was my foundation. And I see a big difference in my clients who were raised by entrepreneur parents versus clients that were raised by employee parents. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you're venturing out, and so to your point, Wendy, with the
Yeah.
generational programming,
Yeah.
to venture out of the norm of the standard allotted societally accepted model of going into a corporation, that in and of itself is breaking a pattern. So you're already a pattern breaker. You're already a generational, like some people call it a generational curse. I don't think employment is a generational curse. I think
Oh,
employment is, there's nothing wrong with putting food on the table for your
right.
family.
Right.
Um,
Right. Right.
but you are already breaking a pattern that's generational pattern.
That is a
So
really great point. I often, when I speak to entrepreneurs, I will often say, does your family think you're crazy? Because we kind of are. Like you have to be an entrepreneur, you have to be a little crazy because you are you are taking risk and jumping into a world that the rest of the world says is nuts. Why don't you just get a good job with a regular paycheck and benefits and everything will be fine? And you're right. If you don't come, it's funny. My mom was a realtor
Yeah.
and owned a real estate firm and that my dad helped her with. But she was the broker. He handled the tech stuff really more than anything. Um, but they were always they had jobs when I was
Yeah.
growing up, but they always had this sort of entrepreneurial side thing going that eventually became the main thing. And so I also grew up. I hadn't really thought about that before, but that's a great point. Yeah. So if you do not come from that world, and the world you came from was about get a safe job with
Mhm.
benefits, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And some people, the way they are wired, that's what you should do. But if you are not wired that way, you are already breaking the rules. And good for
Yeah.
you. That's great. I love that. You're right. And yay for you, I say.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that, I
Huh.
mean, I honestly think that the
Hmm.
myth of safety, it keeps so many people ensnared
100%.
in that concept that that's a safe route. Because if you look at the
Yes.
layoffs, I'm like, I have had clients who have been in corporate who are starting their side thing and they're building that, and that's what I'm supporting them in doing. But
Yep.
they're in corporate and there are layoffs, there are
Yep.
job changes, and there are periods of uncertainty of when that next person will hire you
Yep.
versus as I told every entrepreneur when we were stuck in the Gold Coast of Australia because we got stuck there for during COVID and we lived there. We ended up we packed for a vacation for 3 weeks and ended up staying for 2 years.
Oh
And
my gosh. Wow.
and while being over there, we lived in a small surfer tourist town. So it's a town that was hit really hard financially. I was so excited because I had my online business. I've had clients around the world since 2018, and like I was like,
You
oh
were
great,
okay.
we'll just turn the faucet on. Like, what do we have to do? But that's what I told every entrepreneur who I saw struggling who had a tourism-based business. I said,
Mm,
you have a skill set, which is sales and being able to build a team, being able to build an entity, the business
yeah.
that supports you. You can
Yeah.
take that into any industry whatsoever. You could become a restaurateur. You could take that into selling on Etsy, and you will be successful
Yep.
because you know the skill set of selling.
Love
And
it.
that's a money conversation right there. Like
Yeah.
because you know how to handle money, because you know how to generate money out of nothing.
Which means
That's
that when you're an entrepreneur, you actually are safer because you are in control of your own destiny.
yes.
And it is up to you. And there's always a way. There's always a way to make something happen. You have
Yeah.
much more power and control, I think, when you're running your own show. I totally get
Yeah.
that. Yep.
There's a
Yep.
lot more people out there who need your help and support
Yeah.
than jobs, quite
Yeah.
frankly.
Yeah. 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 Um, it's funny because I had over the years, I've had a few colleagues that dove into the private practice world, stayed there for a year or two, and then went back to a hospital, an
Hmm.
agency, something like that. And the first time I saw that happen, I was like, why would you do that? Like, why would you give this up and go back to that? Because for me, I can't tolerate that thought. I can't tell you how many times in 30 years I have played with the idea of getting a job or getting some kind of a regular gig somewhere because there is a certain challenge to living this life. But even just looking at something online, I just want to break out in hives because I'm like, I could not stand that. But I do respect those, like the people I've seen that have gone back to that world because this didn't work for them. Not
Yeah.
because they weren't making money or doing just fine and seeing good clients and doing right, but their personality wasn't right. It wasn't a good fit for
Mhm.
them. Okay, nothing wrong with that. But if you're listening to this podcast, that's not who you are. I don't think. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people sort of discovered this part about themselves during the pandemic, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah. A level
Yeah.
of resourcefulness and creativity, quite frankly.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when you have the skill set of sales and you know that you have a service and you can back that with results and the proof of that your work is working, then that emboldens you to make more offers. And as we tell all our communication queen clients, we say the only thing that produces revenue is conversation with the correct people. That's the
Mm-hmm.
only thing. But it's
Mm-hmm.
honestly the thing that most people are scared of because they're scared of rejection
Well,
because it makes it about themselves.
talk to me about sales slash service, because my audience, the word sales makes them squirmy, right?
Great.
So just the thought of like when they do an initial phone call with a potential client, they're just trying to figure out if they can help them or not. They are not thinking of that as a sales call. And
Yes.
some people will be offended to use that language, but it is a sales call. And it's funny that you would bring this up because I literally was just talking about this on another episode not long ago. Um, talk to me about sales versus service and how this where mindset comes into play here. And then I want to talk about conscious and unconscious a little bit more.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's all mindset when it comes to sales,
Yeah.
honestly, because when you're having a conversation with someone and you're like, and this is why I think that I had a conversation with a client of mine who is he's a good-hearted, hands-on healer. And I said, he had money beliefs that were stacked on from corporate greed and seeing how people are spending money in this world that he just violently and vehemently disagrees with
Yeah.
internally that like wreck his soul, especially
Mm,
pertaining to the environment. And he was like, he saw money as an unconscious evil. And I said, well, unfortunately, as a business owner, you're going to need to have money to generate. And it's just like food. Food is not evil. There's some food that, yes, is more nutritious than others.
yep.
But if you are actively deterring yourself as a healer, as a therapist, as someone who has the heart for service, if you're
Yeah.
deterring yourself from actually making money, you're letting them win. And
Hmm.
he was like, that changed his world like that. I said, you're
Letting
letting the people
corporate
who
win, letting the
letting
people
the people with money that you think are
that you
doing
don't
bad
like.
things with
Yeah.
money. I said, then
Yeah.
that just means that you need to make money so you can do good things to counterbalance it.
Yeah. 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 That's great.
And so when we
Hmm.
think of sales and service, when you're on those conversations where you're trying to figure out, can I support this person? Can I help this person?
Yeah.
Yes, you're trying to figure out, can you help them? As one of my mentors, James Wedmore says, the transformation is in the transaction. So what happens is as you're having the conversation and the dialogue, and then you start to see, oh my God, I really can help them. Oh, I could use this. Oh, we could do this modality. Oh, that here's this very clear pattern that they have
Yes.
showing up in their life that I can help them with. Yes, I
Yes.
really can help them. And they're starting to subsequently see, oh, yeah, I didn't realize I had that pattern. And they're starting to have those little ahas and insights and breakthroughs. And they're starting to also see the value in your service. You're elevating the conversation. And if you can't see my hands, I'm literally rising them up to like my eye
Yeah.
level. And
Yeah.
then from that space, then comes the offer. And so
Right.
you've elevated them from where you literally in any sort of dialogue with a potential customer, you are elevating them to that space of, oh my gosh, there's actually possibly a solution for my problem.
Mm,
You actually can help them. They're
mm.
actually seeing the most amazing word on this planet, possibility.
Love it. Yes. Yes.
And then comes the price.
Yep.
And there's a big difference between between possibility and circumstances.
Yep.
And that is when suddenly, when you present the price, they start to slide back real fast, like a
Uh-huh.
slide,
Mm-hmm.
and start to think of circumstances. And
Mm-hmm.
and so that's why I actually think that the uncomfortable part of having a sales conversation is
Mm-hmm.
actually the greatest demonstration of your conviction of how
Yes.
you know you can help them.
That is so golden, y'all. The way I think of the same concept is that when you when you make an offer to a potential client, I can help you. Yes, I can help you. I'm so excited because I know I can help you. I can see it in my mind. I know exactly where we're going to go. And you offer that, and you whatever the price is, whatever the investment level is, and it's a little uncomfortable. and you hold that space, you toss that out there and you let them sit with it for a minute, what you are doing is leading them and challenging them to step forward in a way that is something bigger for themselves. You're stepping into that possibility that you're just talking about. Like,
Yeah.
I love this. And I also, James Wedmore is the coach I was talking about a minute ago. That's who I was
Oh
referring
my
to.
gosh.
I didn't say the name, but that's who I was thinking. I love him. I love him so much. You are, but when you hold space for a client, a potential client, to step into a higher level of growth, of development, of getting the kind of help good Lord, they need, and you don't minimize it by lowering your price, discounting, apologizing, all those icky things that we do, you are inviting them into a bigger version of themselves. And that is the ultimate respect, if you ask me. So I
Mhm.
love that. I love that you're highlighting this. This is great.
And this is also where boundaries come in as well, because
Yeah,
over the course of the of my coaching business's journey, I've seen a lot of evolutions in the coaching industry and in that sort industry. And some of them I'm not a big fan of, to be quite frankly. And it is an invitation into holding them into that higher light and the higher possibility. And there is the awareness of actual circumstance. Like,
of course.
will someone investing $30,000 be putting their family at risk?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
So that
All
you can
things.
say that you had a $30,000 month and then buy yourself a Chanel purse or whatever,
Right.
and post it on Instagram. That's where I think that there is in where sales has also gotten a bad rap in the coaching industry in and of
Yeah.
itself,
Yeah.
is because of those practices of being able to hear the objection. And if someone's not qualified, and this is why having a boundary of qualifiers, like if anyone comes into my world to work with me, I have a qualifier of like, here upfront pricing. Like, this is about what the investment is going to be to work with me. It's anywhere between $15,000 and $60,000, depending upon what your needs are.
Mm-hmm.
I also look at the qualifiers of like, what are you bringing in? What is your income actually?
Yeah.
And if we were to multiply that by 300%, which is a possibility working with me, would that coaching investment still be something that's a stretch?
Yeah.
So being
Yeah.
able to look at it from a numerical standpoint, because business is data as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Like, and I think a
Yeah.
lot of healers, coaches, and good-hearted, service-minded people, we
Yeah.
get very emotional. I mean, in human design, I'm an emotional projector. So like
Got it.
I get emotions.
Yeah.
But that experience of letting the emotions be the drivers for your decisions and letting your emotions of also sometimes it could be also the good-hearted excitement for the win of closing a big client, because it is exciting when you get to
Mm-hmm.
close that $5,000 package
Mm-hmm.
or you get those first big sales. And it's looking at, how can I do this and still hold the highest and best and be of service for the client?
Yeah.
And I think of, every time I think of making the offer, I think of like a doctor prescribing. A doctor isn't apologetic for how much your medication is going to cost. A
Yeah.
doctor isn't apologizing for how much the treatment is going to cost. They're saying, okay, here's the prescription. You have a broken arm. It's going to be about
Right.
$16,000 to fix it. So,
Right.
insurance covers it and all that. But like those experiences of seeing the client's pain point and saying, okay, here's the prescriptive based on where you're at, and look at all the data. So
Yeah.
look at the data. If you have a question on your intake form of how much money are they regularly bringing in,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
having or where are they income wise, because I think we need to bring these questions actually to the light
Mm-hmm.
to discard the shame around any sort of numbers, because when we can share those numbers and say that openly, then that allows us to tailor a program so that it's not going to break someone's bank, so that it's not destroying them while we're
Right.
also healing them, because that's some really
Right.
messed up energy,
Yep.
versus being able to see, okay, how can this be supportive? How can we work together to grow this?
There's
So
lots of ways to serve. There's
there's
lots of ways
so
to
many
help
ways to
people.
serve, and
Yes.
not everybody is ready for the highest price thing. That's why it's important to have a value ladder of
Mm,
products, services. Um, you can even have, once you start hitting your financial milestones and making sure that your family, yourself, you have a responsibility to yourself and your family first, that your business is supporting you. Remember,
yeah.
you're in a relationship. So, like, we want to be in an open, transparent relationship with our business and saying, hey, honey, how's it going? Okay, it's a tighter month. All right, we're going to work on revenue then. Or, okay, we're having a great month. Great. Let's put some away in savings.
Right,
Um,
right,
just being
right,
able to
right.
have that open dialogue, because the more we have transparency, the more we eliminate the shame that's around money, especially for women.
So what I hear you saying is that there is a sort of what I think all things in moderation, that there
Yes.
is a time and a place. So it is true that there will be people that want to work with you that probably should not because their circumstances, the truth is they really don't have the money or it doesn't make good financial sense for them right now. And if that's the case, what I'm hearing is like find a creative way to serve them that fits what they can do. And that does not mean, I want to put a caveat in here, that does not mean discount your rates, cut them in half, put them on a sliding scale, because that's what I see people doing all the time.
Yep.
Right. And all that does is hurt you. That's find a way to serve them that does not hurt you. Because if you are serving them in a way that's hurting you, then you are still out of balance. You are still out of alignment. That is not a healthy practice. That's not an ideal practice. Now, there's somewhere I wanted to go with that. The biggest mistake I think people make is assuming people can't afford things, and they really
Yes.
can.
And
Most
they
of the
really
time, they
can.
really can. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
actually what I think is like the bigger takeaway here is don't assume. And in the mental, like when you talked about charging 25 an hour in the beginning, and then you talked about Pilates, I thought
Yep.
because yoga studios charge ridiculously low rates, you know, $12 for an hour,
Yeah. Yeah. For a
$15, that kind of stuff.
class. Yeah.
Like, good grief. But our tendency is to assume that people cannot afford what is a
Hmm.
healthy and right. And in my world, 135 to 200 an hour is becoming more and more common. And in some parts of the country, that's creeping up from even there.
Yeah.
But there is a massive pushback like, oh, I shouldn't do that. I should charge 75. No, don't do that. Yeah. Talk to me. I want to hear from you about unconscious manifestation.
Yep.
How do you know where the money blocks are in your practice? How do you know what you're doing that's unconscious? How is that your core principle? Can you say that core principle again? Because I feel like that was super important. And then let's dig into that a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. I just want to circle back one thing of how can you serve? Because so many people I know get tripped up on the how.
Yeah.
This is where you have a referral practice, maybe
Mm.
to somebody who doesn't have a private practice. And that also amplifies your abundance because you are literally putting referrals out into the world. And so the law of cause and effect and karma, you get referrals back.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
that, it's one of the best strategies. Build referral partners with people who have lower prices than you. And that way you can serve people and pass them off who are not able to be served by you. And that's okay.
Guys, how many times have you heard me tell you to build a referral list of the people you trust so that you send business away when it's not right for you? We talk about
Yes.
that here a lot. That is a brilliant point. Yes.
Yes.
Listen to
And so
what listen to what she said.
so to circle back on
Right.
the principle. So my principle is that which is conscious manifests happily, that which is unconscious manifests unhappily.
Mm,
So
mm,
that from that basis principle, if you are noticing in your body, in your mind, as you're approaching your business, as you're approaching going in to serve a client, and you feel that, okay, what happened with that client that created that, huh? Because
mm.
initially, I bet when you first had that conversation with that client, there was a lot of hope and possibility. But
Yeah.
did you discount your services? Did you lower your rate? Are you having resentment because that client is actually more work than you thought and you aren't actually charging for that?
Did you agree
And
to see them on a Saturday? You don't really want to work on Saturdays.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
So this is where boundaries come into
Yeah.
play, and you never know a boundary really until you cross it.
Mm,
And so when you're bumping up against a boundary, a lot of times it's an unconscious desire that you have that's just being unfulfilled. So I had to learn this in my own coaching practice because I was coaching five days a week. And I was like, for hours. And I was like, I did not fully enjoy it. And
yeah.
also looking at my schedule with my children, that that schedule had to adapt. It had to be adaptive
Yeah.
as my kids were growing. And so
Yeah.
when we lived in Australia, I would coach in the morning and I loved my schedule then because of the time zone difference, all my US clients were in the morning, all my European clients were at night, and I had a lot less European clients. So I would get to just be like by 12 o'clock, I was done.
You were
I was
good.
done with the day.
I love
I
it.
was good. It was magical. I would work from 7 in the morning to 12 in the afternoon, and then I'd get to be mom. And
I
so
get it.
we were able to have another baby.
Life was good.
It was off time. Breaks are wonderful. Uh,
Oh, that's funny.
but that experience, like, and then when we moved back to California and then now to Texas, like each time, because your business is to support your life and your life isn't staying stagnant as your business is growing. So maybe you have a new relationship come in and you want to create time for it. That's why you always want to be assessing your products, your business.
Yeah.
That's why I mean, I'm sure many of your clients and your audience has heard you want to be working on your business, not in your business.
Hmm.
But what does that even mean? Because so
Right.
often we're conditioned to be the doers. We're conditioned
Right.
to be in the business doing the thing. But
Hmm.
when we work on the business, that's when we have the space to say, do I really enjoy how many hours I'm working? Am I really loving working on a Saturday? Like for me, I
Yeah.
take clients on Wednesdays and Saturdays because I have clients who are in corporate and who are transitioning into growing their own business. So I know that that's a flexible time, but I'm able to I take Mondays off.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's allowing yourself to have that dance and to see who am I serving, where are they needing to be served. So for example, with me with taking on more clients who are currently in corporate but transitioning into owning their own business, um, I saw that I needed to be working on Saturdays in order to accommodate them and to serve them. But I was like, I don't want to be working Monday through Saturday. That sucks.
Right.
I did that for 4 years in my Pilates business. I'm not doing that
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
And I didn't have kids back then. So like that being able to say, okay, well, I'm going to work on Saturdays, but I'm not going to work on Mondays. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to work on Sundays. And Sundays are sacred. So having your
Yeah.
non-negotiable days.
Yeah.
And I am a huge fan of also looking at also when you bump into that unconscious boundary and you feel any bit of doubt, resentment, fear, or my favorite one, avoidance. Avoidance is where you will learn exactly where your growth is.
That's so good. Doubt? What'd you say? Doubt,
Doubt,
fear,
fear,
resentment.
resentment. Yeah, resentment. Because resentment is where that will build up and fester like a gangrenous wound in your business, and
Because
it will
that's
lead
what
to
I
burnout.
notice. That's what I notice is when you start resenting your clients. Like
Yes.
that should be a huge red flag to you that you have set something up in a way that you shouldn't have, right?
Yep.
Those are great. Doubt, fear, resentment, and avoidance. Those are like the four horsemen of private practice right there.
Right? Your resentment
Wow.
is a big one, especially when you start
Yeah.
resenting your clients, because that's when, and unfortunately, you there have ways in your contracts. Look over your contracts. The working on your business, that's a time to look over your contracts and say, do I really love how this contract is supporting me
Yeah.
and supporting my clients?
Yeah.
Or is a client, like I had this happen a few years ago with a client of mine. I used to offer continuous Voxer coaching, and I would promise a in my coaching package that they would get a response within 24 hours. But then I was still coaching 7 days a week. And
Yep.
so I had to put limits on the amount of days that they would have or the hours in which they could contact me, unless it was an absolute emergency. And really, I had to define what that was because
Yep.
as I defined what an emergency was, I found that a lot of business owners have urgent fires that are not really urgent. That if honestly,
Right.
if you had an SOP or a standard operating procedure in place, you wouldn't have that urgent issue
So
anymore.
true. So true. And when you bend over backwards to be available at all times or to serve people in crazy ways, most of the time, y'all, that's not going to serve you. Most of the time,
Yes.
not always, but I have found that when I have gone to extreme lengths to be present for people, often they don't appreciate it at all. And in ways that are sort of shocking to me. So
Yeah.
boundaries serve everybody. That is absolutely
Mhm.
true. Yeah. But back to doubt, fear, resentment, and avoidance. You said avoidance was your favorite. Tell me more about that. Why?
So
Yeah.
you will know exactly where your growth edge is when you see all the things that you're avoiding. So that could
Amen.
be that could be, looking at your numbers. I mean, my gosh, like when I first started my coaching business and I was in the emotions of shame and guilt because I wasn't making enough, um, those experiences, I was like, why do I don't want to look at my bank account. Like I know that it's not pretty. Like it's not a pretty look picture. But in avoiding it, I was actually avoiding the conversation that my higher self would actually have, the wealthy version of me who looks at her bank account on a daily basis to be
And
aware
loves it.
of where things are because money is a fickle mistress. And so
Yeah.
we want to be able to nurture and have money nourish us then just like if you were to personify the relationship with your business, you personify the relationship with your money. Would you want to be in a relationship with someone who avoids you?
Yeah.
Like who doesn't call you back? Who like you get maybe a $25 client in? I know that's what I had when I first started.
Yeah.
You get a $25 and you're like, I don't want to look at it because it's not enough. And so you
My
like,
my bookkeeper used to say, you can't treat money like a bad boyfriend that you just set up on the shelf and take down when you want to play with them. Like you have to you have to have a healthy relationship with this thing.
yeah.
Exactly what you're saying. That's so true. That's so
Yeah, and
true.
there's
Yeah.
tangible practices that go into
Yeah.
it. So looking at what you're avoiding, maybe you're avoiding setting up different accounts because you're getting slapped with fees from one of your banks. Maybe
Yes.
you're avoiding raising your prices because every time you go to say your price, it's always very comfortable, and your clients are saying yes far too easily.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if it sometimes that is a space uh to
Avoid
evolve.
it, but your point about you'll know where your growth edge is by what you're avoiding is so that is like that's a instant. Okay, so what are you avoiding, y'all? Like,
Make the
um,
list.
for real, because there's all kinds of, and it could be going after somebody, going after an unpaid, somebody owes you for a session that they never have paid. But I like even the stuff you said, like not looking at my accounts, knowing that I need to clean up or the fees are that I'm
Mhm.
getting dinged left and right on things. Um, I need to move my email platform to a different place because I'm paying for subscriptions that I'm not even using. Like just
Yeah.
making yourself sit down and dig into the numbers when it's icky or uncomfortable or it's overwhelming. That is your growth edge. You are so right. Because just like you do with your clients, guys, whatever it is they're avoiding in their relationships or in their parenting or in their health, that's the thing that once you dive into that, that's where the biggest growth is going to happen, right? You know that. You do that with your clients all the time. Dadgummit. You are calling people out, Kimberly.
I am.
Calling
I'm known
people
for
out.
that.
Y'all, she's got your number. Yeah. Yeah. That's really good. So let's say it just struck me that like a really good journaling exercise would be, y'all, but I'm just gonna dump this out here. I think what I would suggest is sort of one way to take some action on what you're hearing here
Mhm.
is to spend some time with your journal and ask yourself, where in my practice or in my business do I have self doubt? Where am I not so sure? Where do I have the imposter syndrome thing going on? Where am I afraid? No, not afraid, doubt. I'm doubting this. Where are you afraid? Like, let's answer these questions. Where do you find like, I worry about this? I'm scared about that. I'm terrified that that's going to happen. What is that? Where are you feeling resentful? To me, resentment is a biggie. Which clients do you dread seeing and why? What is it? What part? Like, doing your taxes. Let's pick a biggie there. What are the things that you find yourself resenting? And then the biggie that you just named, where are you avoiding? If you sat down with a journal and spent 20 minutes answering those 4 questions, I bet what would come out of that is a very clear picture of where you need to do some work in your practice. I
Mhm.
really, like, I love this. I think that this is actionable, useful, reflective, and it's going to be like, oh my gosh, look at me. There's a pattern here. So then you know where the work is and what you need to do, where you need to work. I love that. That's so helpful. So
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah. The avoidance one is one that I give to my clients regularly of just
Yeah.
make the list.
Yeah.
Make the list of everything that you're avoiding. And it can be that client that you're avoiding.
Yeah.
It could be avoiding getting back to your bookkeeper. It can be avoiding organizing your email so that you have nothing
Yes.
in your inbox. Like
Yeah.
there are many things, but I'm sure in psychology, it's the practice of looking at all of those open loops. Because what those
Yeah.
open loops are, they're taking up RAM space, which takes up the energy that you could have for momentum,
Yeah.
for speed. And money does love speed.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Well, I was going to ask you, so what do you do about this? Once you identify these things, what do you do about it? Like, how do you reprogram your mind for success? How do you do that?
So the big one is start with avoidance. And you look at that list and we can journal everything out. We can do some breath work to transform the body. We can open up the channel to have more energy and capacity flowing through, but unless you actually take action in the physical realm on that list, and you call that client back and you
Yes.
cancel that contract with that other client who you're feeling resentful of because they constantly are taking advantage, or you raise your prices, or you do the things, we have to take action on the physical realm. So we have to
Mm,
look at I did a podcast for our Crown Yourself podcast a while back, and I said you have to look at the plane you're solving the problem on. So we have the spiritual plane, mental plane, emotional plane, and the physical plane. Money
mm,
actually is solved on the physical plane.
mm-hmm.
So while we can do all the mental rewiring of seeing, oh yeah, I got this belief from my mom, or I got this is the generational belief because I mean, believe me, now with my mother living with us, I see like, oh, that's where my scarcity came from. And I'll
I
see
get
it
it.
like just get you because you can recognize it, but how do you deal with it? Is you deal
Yeah.
with it you solve the problem on the plane of existence that the problem is operating on.
Mm,
And money always, just like food, is in the physical realm because
yeah.
we're physical beings.
Yeah.
So we're spiritual beings in a physical meat suit. So we
Yeah.
have to solve for the 3D, which is money.
Yeah.
And look, so it comes down to looking at that list of everything that you're avoiding and facing it with courage and specificity. So, how we solve the unconscious is you get very specific. What is the problem? Okay, the problem is this whole list of everything that I'm avoiding.
Yeah.
Okay, you've got a very clear list of specificity. Then, what is the positive outcome that I want to have from this experience?
Mm,
So, what is
that's good. That's
being
good.
able to look at, when I handle this,
Yeah.
what is the positive outcome I want to have?
Yeah. Y'all,
I,
this is good because our tendency is to doom scroll. Like, our tendency is to
yes.
think, what's the worst thing that could happen? If I tell this client this bad news, or if I hold this client accountable, I could lose them. We tend to go to the negative. But what you're saying is, let's think about the best possible outcome that could come from this. I like that. That's good.
Yeah. So say for example, you've got a client who is back on their pay and
Yeah.
they owe you money.
Yeah.
Well, where else in their life are they doing this? Are they also doing this in their relationships? Are they also not taking ownership and not being accountable in their health?
Yeah.
They're probably, odds are, by you holding them accountable to pay you, you're actually helping elevate them to go back to that sales conversation. You're actually holding them to that standard of like, get your stuff together because
Yep.
you're doing this in this area of your life and in this area of your life.
Yeah.
And by me holding you to this standard, you are now having to rise up to elevate. Now,
Mm,
they may they may pay you resentfully, they may pay you that you may have whatever happens from that. But what is the positive outcome? Think of it in terms of service. How is you having this conversation about boundaries and your time going to be valuable to your client who's taken up your Saturdays? How is
right.
your conversation with your client about paying you going to serve them in being able to clean up and have those
Yes.
difficult conversations in their personal relationships? So
Yes.
look at that positive outcome in the terms of every single person that you're avoiding, every single task that you're avoiding, and how is it going to grow you? How is it going to
Yeah.
make you a better business owner? How is it going to make you savvier? How is it going to make you wealthier? I can tell you that like one of the biggest things
Mm.
I did was when I shifted profit first to not only being a principal in my business, but to being a principal in my personal life. We then took our family and we started having family profit first meetings weekly
Oh,
and
wow.
looking at the income that we're bringing in and being really transparent because shame loves secrecy.
Yeah.
So anything that you're hiding and shrouding in shame, shining the light of transparency and openness and vulnerability, that's
Hmm.
when magic happens.
Yeah.
So you
Wow.
have to have the courage to shine the light.
Yeah.
And that's the next step is like once you look at the best positive result that you want to have to come from you approaching rather than avoiding,
Right.
approach it with courage and courageously execute it. And this is the biggest differentiator from people I see who are stuck in five figures to those making seven
Mm.
is seven and above is that they execute faster.
Mm.
They execute on the things of importance that are normally things that they would have avoided in the past.
That is so true. That is true. You said money loves speed. So, and James Wedmore always says success leaves clues, right?
Hmm.
It is true that one of the ways that we self sabotage is by sitting on things for a very, very long time, which is that same avoidance. But when you can no longer pretend like you don't know what you're doing, when you've made that
Hmm.
list and you're like, yeah, this is where I am. And you do whatever you have to do to get yourself in that spot. It could just be setting an intentional goal and a deadline on it. I'm going to do this by Friday, no matter what. I often, with my coaching clients, will have them text me when they've done whatever the big thing is they're afraid to do. Or let's do that today by 5 o'clock. And I want you to text me when you've done it. Like we do those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Um, Accountability partners, mastermind groups, we're working with a coach. If you like, I don't know about you guys, but I benefit hugely from having people in my life that I can say, all right, I really don't want to do this thing, but I'm going to do this thing. And I'm going to tell you I'm going to do this thing so that I do this thing,
Yeah.
whatever it is. But what you're saying is that when you find the courage to push through the thing that you're dreading so much, big things are going to happen on the other side of that. You're going to be proud of yourself. Number one, you're going to be
Hmm.
sort of amazed that you did the thing that you thought you couldn't do. And I'm going to wager that oftentimes you're going to be surprised at how easy it is and that it goes better than you think it's going to go. And you're going to have more money in your pocket and you're going to have a client who respects you because you have
Yes.
held that boundary. Like there's nothing but good, y'all. There's nothing but good.
Yeah.
I hear preaching in my voice. I can
Oh,
feel it.
Wendy, preach it. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously.
Well,
And I think the other thing is I love the accountability group and what's really worked for many of my clients, and this is a strategy that's worked for me as well,
yeah,
is looking at for me, family is one of my top highest values.
yeah.
And my 7-year-old son has already exhibited the tenets of an entrepreneur. So
I love it.
so bringing him in to family conversations about money,
Mm,
about because so often, like if we're looking at that generational paradigm, odds are perhaps money for most people wasn't talked about. It's
yeah,
shrouded in secrecy. The parents talked about the problems behind the closed doors and
yeah.
never involved the kids in these very essential life conversations.
So true.
And when you bring those to the forefront and you bring those to the table, and
Yeah.
my son knows, he goes like, because my husband was hesitant because he was like, he has a big mouth. And I was like, yes. And we talked like he understands private parts and he understands that like certain parts about our family life are private as
Yeah,
well. And
absolutely.
so keeping those things private and within the family is important. But
Yeah,
we as a family are transparency and we have integrity as our highest value
love
and
it.
we show that transparency. So I highly recommend whether it's your family that you enroll in being your board, but or peers because maybe your family doesn't understand because they're not entrepreneurial. But
Right.
have a board that you're accountable to because that's what
Mm-hmm.
success, like the top CEOs who have publicly traded companies and are running, the multi-billion, trillion-dollar companies, they have a board who they're accountable to.
Yeah.
And that board, like when we started doing board meetings as
Mm.
a family, that changed the dynamics of how I even showed up for money. Like and how we each were seeing our participation and contributing to grow. Like generational wealth is a huge value for me. So
Mm.
contributing to growing and changing that generational narrative,
Yeah.
that whether it's with a group of peers that you have who are in that space, but find a board and it doesn't have to be a lot of people. It can
Yep.
be your spouse, it can be another person, it can be your spouse and your teenage kid, but be able to have the conversations of like, let's look at the spreadsheet. Let's look at
Mm.
where we're at. Let's look at what we made this past year. This past month. Let's look at where we want to go. And you're able to have those financial, more CFO-like conversations,
Yep.
even as a solopreneur practice,
Yeah.
because your money is impacting your family. And this is a huge thing that I've seen with business owners when, like, just this past year, I struggled with letting go of half of my team.
Mm.
And it was a challenging
Mm.
one, and it was because of our sister agency and that business and the struggle with the challenge with cash flow and OpEx.
Yeah.
And from that experience, I was able to see the thing that I was avoiding was letting go of my team because I love them. They'd been with me for years,
I
and I
totally
didn't
get
want
this.
to have them. I wanted to still support them. I still wanted
Yep.
this to work.
Yeah.
And then I realized that it was costing my
Yep.
family in because the business wasn't bringing it didn't have the cash flow margins to support my family.
Yep.
And in knowing that, I was able to say, I'm going to have the hard conversation. I'm going
Yep.
to put the team on pause, certain roles on pause, and then
Yep.
we're going to reassess and restructure. And I
Yeah.
will happily hire them back in a few months when we restructure and when they're in the right roles and the right
Yep.
positions, and we can see a direct income correlation. But it had to come from that space of it hitting that core value of family, of saying, oh my gosh, this is actually impact my financial decisions as a leader
Yeah.
and a business owner are impacting my family. That hit my core. So you have to
So
look at
also
what's
what
motivating for you.
I was going to say that takes me back to where we started, which is
Yeah.
you also have to de-identify.
Yes.
I'm liking that word today. De-identify from that decision, that place that business was at. You had to make a decision based on the data points.
Mm-hmm.
That was reality. And I need to not avoid. I need to acknowledge this reality, make a tough call, do the thing that I have been avoiding because I have to do that to stay in alignment with my core values, which is my business needs to be supporting my family.
Yeah.
That's my first thing. So that's brilliant. And such a powerful reminder of what it's all about in the end.
But it wouldn't
Um,
have come had I not looked at the data. So I
the
had to,
data is important. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
allowing yourself to, and had I not looked at the data with transparency also by having the data look back at me in the form of board meetings with my kids.
Yeah. I love that. Uh, it is not unusual in the folks that I work with and talk to that I will ask people like, so what is your annual income? And they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
What are you averaging per month? I don't really know. When are your good months? I don't really know. And I have had people, one of the funny things that's happened is I've had people tell me, I think my pricing structure is pretty solid. Really? Okay. So what are you charging? And how many clients do you have at that amount? Two. Well, where are the rest of your clients? And then you start digging into it a little bit and you'll
Yep.
find that they've got three clients at this rate and seven clients at that rate and 22 clients at that old rate and one client at this rate. And it's because they have been making decisions based on guilt along the way
Mm-hmm.
rather than acting like a business owner and being the leader of their practice. Like you have to be a leader in your practice. There are so many little tricky ways that this stuff will undo you guys. And yet, what Kim has laid out for you today is like all kinds of brilliant little, there have been so many little juicy nuggets in this. Um, I encourage all of you to go back and listen to this a second time and maybe even do it when you're not doing something else like driving or walking and just really tune in to what she's had to say today because there are so many like the whole thing about what you manifest what is it what conscious say that
That which is conscious manifests happily, that which is unconscious manifests unhappily.
I have to practice to be able to say that but I wrote down happily unhappily because I thought it'd be worth it to just think what's manifesting in my life happily.
Mm-hmm.
What's manifesting in my life unhappily. Okay, so what's that about? And what does that have to teach me about me? It's not the economy. It's not the insurance company. It's not the referral source. It's not even your clients. Whatever is happening in your practice is a reflection of you, not your worth, not your value,
Mm-hmm.
but your blocks. That's what this is about.
Your
And
humanness.
your humanness. Good Lord, we all got them, y'all. I've been in
Yeah.
practice for 30 years. I've been working on this stuff for a very long time, and I still run into this stuff all the time. So that's okay. Kim, this has been so good. Thank you so much for being with us today. Tell for folks who are like, okay, you got my attention. How do I learn more about you? Where would you recommend people come to find you?
If you love this conversation and you want to continue it, head on over to crownyourself.com and click the button that just says work with me. And I'm happy to have a quick conversation with you, especially if you let me know that you were referred by Wendy.
Yeah, do that, y'all. Crownyourself.com. Go look at that. I just love that whole concept. I always ask before we wrap up, we're going to bring this to a close. And it has been really a great conversation. I'm not just saying that. Every time I have this kind of talk, I think, I love this so much. It is so much fun to dig into these things. And people hear things in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the themes that you've touched on today are themes that I come back to over and over again on this podcast because it is so, so insidious in the world that I inhabit. I don't think you can say it too much. And my hope is that people will hear some things today in a whole new way that they haven't heard before. Is there anything from you anything that I haven't asked you, anything we haven't covered, or anything that you just feel called to share that you think will make this conversation complete?
It really comes down to claiming your power. And so often I see with private practice business owners that they are abdicating their power to team, to others, to the economy, to something outside of themselves. And to remember that when you're at cause for your life, you
Yeah.
become a magnificent creator and you can create a magnificent life and a magnificent business so long as you put these practices into place and you approach rather than avoid, you take courageous action and you look at the positive outcomes for each step. And so just to reiterate, those pieces will allow you to feel empowered, confident, and also serve your clients better because when you're serving from a place of being the muse of inspiration and the actual walking, talking being who is holding boundaries, healthy boundaries, charging a price that is reflective of the value that you're providing, and holding your clients to that same standard that you work with clients who pay you on time, who are in alignment with your boundaries,
Yeah.
you're elevating them just by your example.
Yeah.
Not even your services are the cherry.
It is the very definition of a win-win. So the closing point is crown yourself, my friend.
Yourself.
There you go. Love it. Thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you so much for all these bits of wisdom that you have shared with my people today. I love you for this, and I think they're going to love you as well. And guys, just do what I said. Go listen to this stuff again. Do your homework. and you're going to be awesome. Yeah. Okay. And with that, I'm going to bring this episode to a close, but we're going to keep this conversation going in all kinds of ways. Y'all know we will. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Ideal Practice Podcast. And I will see you again right here next week, same time. All right, y'all. Have a great week. Bye now. Hey, y'all. If this program has become important to you, if Ideal Practice matters, it would mean so much to me if you'd be willing to take just a minute to do one or two of the following things. First of all, would you follow or subscribe to the show here at Ideal Practice? Following me helps you because you'll never miss an episode, but it helps me as well for all kinds of reasons. To do that, all you have to do is go to the show page for Ideal Practice on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. There, just click on the plus sign that you'll usually find in the top right-hand corner, or click on the word follow that you're going to find somewhere there on that page. Of all the things, this really is the most important thing you can do for the podcast itself. While you're there, it would be extra special if you would be willing to give me a 5-star rating, and even better than that, a review with your own words. Your words matter. And when you write what you feel, what you think, you uplift and encourage others. And I love that. If you want to go a step further than that, take your favorite episode or two, one of the ones that has meant a lot to you, and share it with a friend. Could you do one or two of those things for me? I promise I will love you forever. You guys matter to me, and I value your support more than I can possibly say. Thank you, sweet friend, for anything you can do to help me out and support the show. I'll see you again soon.